Hey guys, welcome back to We Met at Acme. I'm so excited to be here with Ben and Rebecca. I already know I'm going to Kronengold, Ben
Mhm.
Kronengold and Rebecca Shaw. Rebecca and Ben are a comedy team who got their start writing for The Tonight Show. Their debut humor collection, Naked in the Rideshare, is due out on November 14th from HarperCollins, and it's gotten praise from Mindy Kaling, Will Ferrell, Nick Kroll, and Jimmy Fallon. They also are a couple who, after 9 years of dating, got engaged just last week. What an intro.
Mm.
Hi, guys.
What an intro.
Hello.
Thanks for having us,
We're
Lindsey.
so
Thanks
excited to
for
be
being
here.
here. 9 years of dating.
Yeah.
This is true.
When you hear that someone described you guys as 9 years of dating and now engaged, are you like, fuck that? That's like rude. Or are you like, that's like amazing?
Honestly, I think there was a period there where we weren't really broadcasting the fact that we were dating. So I think there's still a teeny part of me that's like, wait, I don't know if people are supposed to know that yet.
Right.
Right. We work together. We write together. We got our start. Well, we met in college, but we got our start working in late night together. And we were a little protective over the nature of our relationship. So now it's fun to get to tell it to the world and celebrate this beautiful, long relationship. Do you want to hold hands? I saw you
Cute.
Hold
reaching
hands for
for
a
it.
second.
I thought you wanted
Just
to
for a
hold hands.
moment.
I misread
For
the
a brief
vibe,
moment.
but
Wait,
Well,
let's see the ring. Let's see the ring.
oh,
Gorge.
I'm unbelievably happy. It's his Ben's grandparents' engagement ring.
Wait, that's so special.
isn't that really special?
That is really
Yeah,
special.
we have a it felt almost faded, I think, when we met, we, found out after we met, maybe right before we started dating, that our moms grew up together in Queens. Our grandparents were friends. It's a big Bayside triangle of
Yeah,
sorts,
we're basically very lucky we're not related.
Yeah, very lucky.
Although I
And
don't know.
who's to say that you're
Yeah.
not?
I was gonna say the
Who's
genetic
to
testing has
say?
not cleared yet.
Yeah.
Um, actually, I had like a similar thing when I met my
Yeah.
husband. We found out our moms went to the same college,
Wow.
which is a college near your college,
Mhm.
Really?
but is not quite an Ivy. It is Hartford.
Hartford, great school.
And you guys met at Yale,
At Yale, mhm.
which is fancy and nice. Is there like an equivalent? Because you
Mm.
know how Harvard has like the Lampoon, like, funny people come from
Yeah.
there. Is there an equivalent at Yale?
You know, it's so funny you mentioned that. There is less of an institutional base of comedy that, there's a bunch of really fantastic comedians who came out of Yale, but less of sort of that Harvard Lampoon, every year there's this group of people who are dead set on being professional comedy writers. But, in our time there, we were very, very involved in the performance space, interestingly.
Mhm.
Neither of us wanted to be performers. We still really avoided it at all costs. But, we ended up both falling into sketch comedy. We got into two sketch comedy groups. We eventually ended up being the directors of the two groups, which was so much fun. Ben also did improv as well.
Mhm.
But that really just became, our major, more or less. It wasn't the thing that we, academically were supposed to be focusing on, but it was the thing that we just found ourselves spending all of our time thinking about and doing.
Our parents were psyched, as you could imagine,
Yeah, I'm
coming
sure.
from Yale. But it is a really vibrant scene. And talk about Mindy Kaling. Mindy gave Rebecca some of the best advice you've ever gotten, which right before college, you met her in a chance encounter. You said, "Hey, I'm going," and she said, "You got to do comedy when you go to school. The best kids are in comedy."
Yeah, that intersection
But
of
how did she know
funny
that
and
you were
smart.
funny, like, already?
I
Or
don't
she just
know.
said it?
It
I
was
I
her experience. It was like she was speaking to her college
Right.
experience,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think that, she said that that's just where she found the most interesting, kind, fun-loving people. And we really found that to be the case. I mean, clearly we've been chasing the high ever since.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
And I want to hear more about your kind of origin story as a
yeah,
couple. But before we get into that,
yeah.
what is, and, we can start with Ben. What's your favorite romantic gesture?
Ooh.
Mm, there are so many. Well, college comes to mind.
Uh-huh.
I think Rebecca is so good at the big gestures, but she's also just so good at the small moments. Our love language in college was writing each other sticky notes. So we'd wake up to like a cup of coffee with a sticky note with a little joke or a little pun. And we have all of them now. And when I proposed a week and a half ago, our apartment was laid out with the sticky notes. So we've been keeping our entire relationship, which is, I think, writing in this weird way before we were ever thinking about doing it professionally in any capacity. It was a love language that we got to share, would you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it is, just that ability to show I thought a little bit extra about this thing. I did a little bit more. I spent a little more time on this to make sure you would smile in the morning meant so, so much early on. I thought you were going to talk about your little Valentine's Day
Oh,
tradition.
that could be your favorite gesture. It sounds like it might
Sounds
be.
like it's yours.
My my what started as my least favorite romantic gesture and then quickly became my favorite was our very first Valentine's Day. We were freshmen in college, and one of the a cappella groups on campus had this tradition where they would, put themselves up as singing, candygrams for hire. They'd show up at your door and, serenade you with a song of their choosing. And Ben thought this would be a very sweet thing to have them surprise me and to have them surprise me in a class. I think he thought it was going to be this sort of grand sweeping moment. So Ben contacted the a cappella group. They asked what song he would like to have them do. He picked the song My Funny Valentine, which
A
sound
classic.
a classic, right? Funny. I'm funny, I guess. Valentine's Day. It is Valentine's Day. And then what ended up happening in practice is that I was sitting in my bioethics lecture, which had about 500 people in it.
Oh
The
no.
professor was in the middle of a lecture on abortion ethics.
Oof.
And all of the sudden, out of nowhere in the back, I just hear a little soprano go, "Is there a Rebecca Shaw?" And all of these like unbelievably chipper, lovely women come like traipsing down the aisles, interrupt the entire class to sing My Funny Valentine. Now, Ben had never heard the song before, but for those who haven't, the lyrics are incredibly offensive.
Yeah.
The whole
Like-
thing is it's like a funny looking woman.
Right.
Your looks are laughable, unphotographable. Is your figure less than Greek? Is your mouth a little weak when you open it to speak? Are you smart? I know the lyrics now. Believe it or
I
not.
play it for him every morning.
Yeah.
But it was the most mortifying day of my life. And
That is so funny. Wait, what did the professor do?
he had a really good sense of humor
Oh,
about
thank
it. He,
God.
as it turns out,
Yeah.
was also in an a cappella group in
Oh,
college. Go
great.
figure.
All of these Yaleys, they're
Yeah.
just trying to sing.
But I did get him back pretty good.
How so?
Every year after that, on Valentine's Day, I hired the same a cappella group to interrupt whatever his biggest class of the year was.
As you should.
Yeah.
As I should, and I did. And I would sort of try to like increasingly escalate comedically. So like we
Yeah.
got giant printouts of his face one year and they all walked in holding them. Or,
That's amazing.
it was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
That's
I think
great.
sharing a sense of humor and a love of comedy, and even if it's at each other's expense in a small way, was an early through line of what connected us.
Yeah.
And now it's in a very lucky turn what we get to do professionally.
Yeah.
What do you say?
It's really true.
Yeah.
I love that. And that's going to be something that we are going to definitely dive into.
Can't wait.
But so this was freshman year. So you guys have literally been dating since freshman year.
Yeah.
First week.
So how did it go down?
Mm-hmm.
We met actually at an accepted students meetup. So we met in March of both of our senior years of high school, which is bizarre. So we actually ended up being friends for something like 5-6 months before we started
Mhm.
dating. I always feel really embarrassed when we're like, "Oh, when's your anniversary?" And it's like, "Oh, it's August 25th."
Like by college math, it's like, what?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like orientation.
Yeah, we
Right.
hadn't unpacked our twin XL, but we were already.
Yeah.
Um,
But I don't know. We both grew up. Rebecca's grew up in the city. I grew up on Long Island, and I think we both had slightly faster high school experiences. Maybe. I mean, we were
Yeah.
not the coolest kids in town by any means, but I think that I don't know, lived a little bit of like a raucous life. And did you hear the Long Island come out with raucous? Lived a little bit of a raucous life, and when we found each other, we were like very conscious about we could not do this yet. We could try to wait, but like what day or moment would we want to have missed with each other?
Right.
And the answer was like none of them. So it was a really pure, great love story that we were trying to still salvage a really great college experience out of. So Rebecca's the most intentional person in the best, loveliest way, and was like, we are going to make other friends and we're going to have this big, vibrant college life for these next 4 years. And I think we ended up like doubling the friends that we made
Yeah.
because you were friends with my friends. I was friends with your friends. We were
Mhm.
in comedy. So we were still living, I think.
Yeah, we were very intent on not being the like quote unquote old married couple on
Yeah.
campus.
Yeah.
It was really important to us that we like had a lot of fun too.
No, of course.
Yeah.
And like thank God that you did because I feel like that's crucial
Yeah.
for like, longevity. But I
Mhm.
have to
Mhm.
ask, I think I might have asked you this on the phone, but
Mm,
when are your birthdays?
mm.
Mine is October 27th.
October
Okay.
21st.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Scorpio, Libra.
Mhm.
Mm.
Love that for you.
Both a little on the
Happy
cusp.
happy belated,
Thank you so much.
and happy belated.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
It's
Um,
very annoying and codependent of us to have birthdays in the same week.
uh-huh,
It's
uh-huh.
Yeah,
really
yeah.
unpleasant.
But like, I guess I'm just so that was freshman year. Now you're 27.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were no doubts along the way, and it's okay to say.
No,
It's pretend
yeah.
it's therapy. It's
Yeah.
okay. Was there ever like a 1 week breakup?
Mm,
No breaks, no breaks the whole
Mhm.
way through, and no panicked moments except I think in the hypothetical.
mm.
Do you know
Mhm.
what I mean? And feel free to jump in here too. But I think we both had meta moments of like stepping out of it and being like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like neither of us, I think, pictured being like a one and done kind of college couple
Mhm.
before we knew each other. Like I don't think either of us was like, I can't wait to get to college and lock it down and
Right.
not have, um so in the hypothetical, I think we had a few moments, certainly like at the end of college where everyone was like, and are you going to take a break at any point? Like I think we in the abstract, those narratives start to seep in. But
Mhm.
I think to Ben's point, honestly, when we talked about, that at the end of senior year, it was kind of the same as the end of or the beginning of freshman year when we were saying like, but what day would I want to miss?
Mhm.
We have so much fun together that it's like to do something because it feels like the quote unquote right thing to do would be so antithetical to the way that we've, lived our relationship up to this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was messy. I mean, there were I picture myself drunk in senior year crying. I'm like, "So hook up with someone else. Just do it.
Yeah.
I'll be here on
Yeah.
the other side and, it'll be better for us in the long run." And Rebecca was like, "That's so sweet of you, but I don't want to." And it was a hard thing to fathom, I think, because of I don't know, every relationship's different and some really legitimately do benefit from that. I was I'm sort of like the joke on the tip of my tongue is, we'll explode in 2 years and we'll both have to sleep with 40 people, but, like, that's not true, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's true.
Like, what
Right?
can you say?
Right?
What can you say to people listening who are like, is it normal that I do have doubts or should I not have doubt? Like, just in terms of like, how did you know?
Mhm.
Especially
Yeah.
knowing like so early, and obviously you guys are intelligent emotionally and like on paper as well. So
Mhm.
maybe that helped, right? But like how did you know that was it less about like what's out there and more about just appreciating what's in front of you?
Mm.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I can speak for myself at least. I definitely, especially freshman year, felt incredibly anxious about it. I think that, as much as there is so much pressure to find someone, I think on the other side of that, there is such pressure of like, make your decision and like, no, but you should be having fun or no, you should be doing this. And I think a friend of mine once said to me very early on freshman year, she's like, are you happy right now? Are you enjoying this? And the answer was yes. And she said, nobody's asking you to commit to marrying anyone right now. Like you are allowed to enjoy a good thing
Right.
without being anxious about something in 10 years from now. And I think that that was, for me at least, a very liberating thing
Mhm.
because, you know, I think it's easy to sort of question when something does feel so good. It's easy to be like, but what about when the shoe drops or what about, if there's this problem and what if that pans out down the line? And I
Mhm.
think getting permission to live in the moment a little more really allowed me to just enjoy myself.
Right.
Yeah. And so much of it has been so hard fought. I mean,
Oh
9
yeah.
years of a relationship, like, we've had more arguments and nights until that were where we're up until 5 in the morning trying to figure out something in our relationship than
Oh,
like I
totally.
ever could have imagined. But I think our communication is really strong.
Oh, totally. I mean, when we graduated, we were so lucky. We gave this graduation speech, and that's how we ended up getting signed with our agents. And we got hired on the Tonight Show based on that speech. Jimmy saw it, and he offered us the job as sketch writers. Um, and it was this pretty quick transition away that was so lucky between like, oh, we want to write comedy professionally. That's the thing we want to do. We're giving this speech together because that makes sense in the moment. It's a bit about a couple who is deciding whether or not to break up at graduation. Um, and then very quickly it was, hey, your big break is calling. You have to do it together. by the way, from here on out, you're working as a team. How does that sound to you? So I think that a lot of those growing pains that couples have when they enter the real world, when they, figure out what their life looks like after college, we had in this like cramped office in 30 Rockefeller Plaza with no
Right.
windows, which just fast tracked, I think, a lot of the fighting and then the conflict resolution.
Mhm.
But how is it possible then that other people didn't know you guys were dating if you were
I know.
basically like hired as like a couple?
It's funny, the graduation speech that I think was the only thing people saw of
I
us.
need to see this speech
We gotta
then.
show it
Like,
to you.
how have I not been? I need this.
Um, it a lot of people watch it and they're like, "Clearly, this is a couple."
Mhm.
A lot of people watch and they're like, "Clearly, these are, comedians doing a bit." So, there's ambiguity certainly, unless, like, you know
Mhm.
for sure. I mean, Jimmy knew what the deal was. We made sure that he knew. The important people at, like, NBC Universal knew. But we made an
We weren't doing anything profoundly sketchy.
but we made, again, I think speaking to this attempt that we always try to give to, like, this is a potentially formative moment for our relationship. Let's try to go in with as much intentionality as possible and, like, make the decision. Let's not let a decision be made for us, even if that means being up until 3 and 4 or 4 in the morning, like, sweating over what should we do about our relationship now being thrust into the workplace. We thought about it and we said, let's not make it our big thing. There's already a weird asterisk next to us. We're very green. We're coming into this right out of college as already pretty weird. Let's not throw another layer onto it and say, hey, we're in this relationship, because as it turns out, the job is wildly collaborative. You need people to come into your office and want to pitch you a sketch idea, or write something with you throughout the night. And we were worried about, like, oh, I don't want a third wheel, or
Or like if we disagree on something creatively, if I don't think
Right.
a joke is good, you would never want someone to be like, "Ooh, lovers quarrel,"
mhm,
you know?
mhm.
Right.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
gonna give you some space. It's like
Uh-huh.
it's a tough job. It's an intense environment, just 5 shows a week. And we were like, we don't want to give ourselves any disadvantages going in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
think they all just thought we were really codependent best friends or something. They would
Mhm.
ask like what we're doing on hiatuses and we'd be like, "Oh, we're I'm going to Boston." And Ben would be like, "I also am going to Boston." And
They're
we're
like, you
like,
Uh-huh.
should hang out with Rebecca there.
Yeah, yeah.
She'll be there.
That's so
"Ben,
funny.
Ben who?"
I know.
Oh, right,
Uh-huh.
right, right.
At a
Yes.
certain point, we were like, is it a chemistry problem? But I think hopefully we just were able to code switch. But one thing that you said, Lindsay, that I want to touch on, like, I think that I would never want people to think, oh, my perfect person must be out there and they have this perfect relationship, because I think we're in a very bright and sunny phase. We just got engaged
Yeah.
2 weeks ago. So,
Right. So let's hope.
but I think another message, when I would see friends in college, guy friends, crying over girls, or, this girl like ended up seeing someone else, I'd sort of have this perspective that I think a lot of people get maybe later on in life, where I was like, that was never supposed to be your person, and like, I'm so excited for the day that you find your Rebecca, and
Mhm.
you're gonna be like, oh my god, that relationship, was that even
Right.
a relationship?
Right.
And now I'm getting to see that happen, with so many of my friends being like,
Yeah.
oh, this is it. We just had that this is it moment early.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's so true, and, like, you
Yeah,
can't control that. I mean,
totally.
I went to college with a boyfriend,
Mm,
Mhm.
like, not same college, but in from a high school
yeah.
relationship. We both went to college and, like, our mindset was, "We'll stay in this," and
Yeah.
in my mind, I was getting married to him at one day.
Mhm.
But you had said something really, important, Rebecca, that your friend was like, "Are you enjoying this? Like, are you happy?" I was not enjoying it,
Mhm.
let
Yeah.
me tell
Yeah.
you. Like, it was such a like, everyone he, like, took a photo with on Facebook, I was like, "He's definitely hooking up with that girl,"
Mhm.
and it wasn't fun. Like,
Yeah.
it was not fun for me at all, and so, obviously, we ended up breaking up. Of course, he was all hooking up with that girl in the photo.
Mhm.
Um but had that not happened, and had it been really enjoyable, and he was trustworthy and this
Yeah.
and that, I don't see why I wouldn't have. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that just wasn't the situation for me.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
like it was for you, it was for some people that I know. Like, you never know when your timing will be.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
But I feel like if you're one of those people who go into college and you're like, I'm gonna meet my person freshman year
Yeah.
orientation, you won't.
Absolutely.
100%
Like,
not.
it
Yeah.
has to like really sneak up on you or not at all.
Yeah, it has
Yeah.
to find you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very lucky.
Yeah.
You are, you are.
Mm.
So, okay, something that I really wanted to talk about was, I did this event the other night,
Mm.
and it was like a dating workshop. And we did this activity, which was like make a list of your needs versus your wants
Mm.
versus your needs for a future like potential partner. And needs are like, things you really need, right? Like you
Mhm.
need them to be like compassionate.
Right.
You need them to, be kind, whatever. And wants are like more like you need them, like you want them to be tall. You
Mhm.
want them to be, I don't know, have good teeth,
Yep.
Sure.
but like, that can be fixed. Anyway, so I noticed that on everyone's want list was like sense of humor, but
Mm.
not on their needs list,
Mhm.
Interesting.
which any boyfriend that I've had, and I've had a few, who there wasn't like a comment, like we didn't have a shtick. And
Mhm.
like they weren't the one person in my life making me laugh more than anyone else in my life,
Mhm.
that relationship failed.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I truly think that it's because there wasn't like and and I'm not saying that they have to be like a comedian, right?
Mhm.
But I need to have more fun with them, laughing more with them than I do with my best friends.
I
Maybe
agree.
equal, but
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
at least at the same level.
Or at least a different kind of fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, like, you're spending like 79 or more percent of your life with this person.
Yeah.
Like one on one. You have to be able to like laugh. Like if you have kids,
Yeah.
you have to find the humor in the fact that the kid like painted the wall, whatever it is,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? Like I'm shocked and like do you feel like there's a pattern? Obviously with you there is,
Mm.
but with your friends and the relationships that you think are good and your friends and things like that
Mhm.
where like there's a humor, there's a shtick.
Oh, I
Mm.
totally do. I mean, it's so funny. I was just talking about this with someone the other day. I was like, the thing that nobody tells you about dating is like life can be so boring.
Mhm.
And if you're stuck with someone who bores you even a little bit, it's just like, it's just the worst decision you could possibly make because it just
And the
feels so.
biggest.
And the biggest,
Mhm.
totally. Like the ability and everyone's sense of humor is different. To your point, they don't have to be comedians, but to not have someone who shares that same sense of joy and fun as you, whatever that sense may be, it's like that's a lot of groceries to buy by yourself or like a
Mhm.
lot of TV to watch without wanting to know what your partner's opinion is.
Mhm.
Um, so I completely agree with that. I that is so interesting. I wonder if what they are interpreting as sense of humor is like a proxy for a bigger thing of like shared values and, you know, I mean, Ben, we were just talking about this on the way over, but I think the other side is also just as important, which is, not having someone who has the wrong sense of humor.
Oh my God. The
Yeah.
wrong sense of humor is awful. Like, and
Mhm.
every now and then, like my husband will show me a video on YouTube and I'm like, that's not funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's okay,
Yeah.
right? Like
Totally.
you're not gonna think everything's funny. But if he was like sending me unfunny memes all day,
Mhm.
like that would actually be a red flag, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
I agree.
There's definitely an individual's, sense of humor in both partners, I think, but your collective has to be just as joyful. Rebecca thinks the funniest thing in the entire world is animals with human personalities.
It's so
I
embarrassing.
I don't find that funny at all. I
I swear we're humorists and very intellectual, but like nothing in the world will make me laugh harder than like that dog has a job.
it's
Uh-huh.
true.
My favorite thing in the world.
I like people falling. Rebecca doesn't. You need
Yeah.
Thank you for
you
your bravery.
you need those silos for you to like
Right.
cackle to yourself at night. But to your point, Rebecca, like we spend so much time watching TV. I mean, that's our world, that's our business. But like the hardest we laugh at television is when you pause and you're like, doing a bit about the characters or making fun of someone on screen or being like, that is your mom for this and that reason, that kind of
Right,
thing.
right, right.
Not a your mom joke in the classic sense, but in the
Uh-huh.
nuanced sense. Um, and I think it's like our relationship. I don't know if you were just observing us, if you'd be like, those are comedy writers, but like, we don't put the
Yeah, I don't
pressure.
know if we're like overly funny in our dating.
Yeah, I don't think we're the most like on people ever. Like, we're not stand ups, we're not performers, but like, so much of our relationship is colored by just belly laughter. And I think it's a really important, to your point, as you have kids and things get difficult, to come back to a source of like joy at the core of a relationship
Yeah.
is really crucial, I
Yeah.
think.
I think on the other side too, like the shticks that you can fall into with your partners that are negative
Hmm.
really stick. You know what I mean?
Like, give me an example.
Like we were talking about this the other day with, well, actually a good example is, so we just got engaged.
Mhm.
And the like year leading up to getting engaged, it was, we just turned 26, 27. It was right around the time when everyone started asking us, like, so when's it gonna happen? You guys have been together for so long. And we genuinely had never been a couple who was like super gung ho on the idea of like, and we're gonna get married and this and that. So it wasn't something that we were really talking about. But right around the time when people started asking, they were only asking Ben. It was
Mhm.
really this
Yeah,
sense
of
of,
course.
Mhm.
so when are you gonna, make an honest woman out of her?
Mhm.
Not literally saying that, but it was so interesting to me that it was like the assumption was Rebecca's waiting around. She's upset that
Right.
Ben hasn't asked her
Uh-huh.
yet. She's ready to say yes when he
Mhm.
does. And poor Ben, like, like he doesn't want to be in that position. So it was, when people would ask Ben early on, I hope it's okay
Totally. No, it's
to.
true.
Well, do you want to?
I mean, I would the jokes that I would make to try to disarm the situation were things like, "Not anytime soon," or "Ask me again in 10 years," or, the equivalent of, like, "She's begging me," or, like, maybe a funnier version of that was, like and a meaner one was like, "Well, could be soon, but who knows who I'll propose to?" Just these
Yeah.
things that, like, that's not even my sense of humor, I'd like to
Right,
think,
right.
but it's like, you're trying to take the air out of a
Like
situation
a
and
Mhm.
Catskills comedian in the
I know. I've
70s.
turned into like Rodney Dangerfield. And it was because it's not your best friends who are asking you. It's like someone you're meeting at a
Right.
bar or like,
Right, and it's not like you mean it. It's just like, oh,
No,
it's a
of course, my
one-off.
husband would say the same kind of
yeah.
things,
Totally.
and, like, actually, it would piss me off sometimes, to be
Yeah.
Yeah.
honest.
And Rebecca was like, and it's something that we talked about like at a few different important turning points in our relationship. It's like, what kind of jokes are we making? And like, how can we make them not at each other's expense?
Right.
And how could we be like, find the comedy writers in us to be like, how could we be more surprising than that? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just
Mhm.
the easy joke. So what it ends up turning into.
Well, Ben would just do a lot of like, I've been asking her constantly, "Can you reason with
Yeah,
her?" Or
yeah.
like
I've
That's
been
much
begging
better,
her.
Yeah.
though.
Yeah, it was just a little more surprising and, like, gave her a little bit more, I don't know,
Like
existence,
autonomy.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
in a space that people just didn't come to with.
But that
Totally.
is such a good call that you made about people just assuming that, like, the women are waiting around,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I am so guilty of that. So we have, like, in our friend group, in, like,
Mhm.
our larger friend group, there's this couple, they're so great, and, like, both very funny, actually, and they live in LA,
Mm.
and we were all at a wedding, and, I'm closer to him than to
Mhm.
her, and they've been together probably as long as my husband and I have been together, but they're not engaged.
Mhm.
And so, that's like 4+ years, which
Mm.
is, when you're like in your 30s,
Yeah.
like assumed like
Yeah.
you're going to get engaged.
Yep.
And so I went up to him. I can't even use the drunk excuse because I don't drink, but I went up to him and I was like, okay, when are you proposing? Like, this
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
ridiculous. It's like, it's enough already.
Mhm.
And he was like, to my actual, like, jaw-dropping surprise, he was like, "She doesn't believe in marriage, so, like, talk to
Whoa.
her about it." And I was
Uh-huh.
like, like, I can't believe that I just was that person who
Uh-huh.
just, like, made that assumption
Oh,
and, like, went right for it to, like, be mad at, like, my
sure.
guy friend
Totally.
when I had no idea.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, like, it was just I was so taken aback. I was like, you just never think that."
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And listen, I am not anti-meddling. I am very pro. We should all be meddling in our friends'
Of
relationships
course.
constantly. It's my passion and my joy. But yeah, it was just interesting how in these moments, like I feel like we are so often on the same playing field. We work together, and suddenly people were like, "Ben, TikTok."
Uh-huh.
We make a
Um,
lot of decisions together, and I think we've avoided a lot of things that couples post grad fall into, like jealousy of each other's careers. We've never had that. It's been the same
Right.
yeah.
career.
Right, right.
Or one person works a lot more, and that you can't spend time together in a meaningful way.
Right.
We're only together,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it felt, I think, with us in a lucky way, like we're gendered things. There's more of a spotlight on them because we're so co-equal in a lot of
Mm.
ways. And
Mhm.
this was a weird one that I wasn't quite prepared for, and I needed a punch-up writer basically on my initial jokes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I,
But
yeah, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, I feel like with our friends and their relationships too, maybe it is the comedy writers in us, but you sort of notice the jokes people are making. And
Mhm.
in the same way that they say, there's truth behind every joke. I don't know if
Right,
that's really
right.
true, but the sort of the shticks that couples fall into of like, there's the sort of more old fashioned, like, oh, I hate that guy, or, just
Mhm.
Mm.
putting your partner down in front of other people.
Oh, I hate that. I
It's
So
really
so
hate
annoying.
weird.
that.
Yeah,
And, like, I've experienced that in past
totally.
relationships, and
Mhm.
anytime Steven, my husband, has made some sort of, like, joke at my
Mhm.
expense, like
Mhm.
and it's not that it happens often, but anytime he's done it,
Yeah.
and it's usually when he's, like, uncomfortable. Like, it's
Always,
Totally.
only when he's
always.
Yeah.
uncomfortable, when it's, like, my friends that, like, he
Mhm.
barely knows or something,
Yeah.
and I'm just like I always will talk to him after and be
Yeah.
like, "I know you were joking, but,
Mhm.
like, never say that again." And he's like, "Oh,
Totally.
okay, yeah, yeah, yeah."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. That's such a balanced and I think perfect way of looking at it because it's like it's never I don't think in my experience, like, intentional or like, "You know what I really wanna do is put you down." It's coming from a place of, like, I don't know this person that well
right,
probably,
Yeah,
or
you're
but
just
no idea what
grasping
I'm
for a joke,
doing.
and the
Yeah.
low-hanging fruit
Uh-huh.
is
yeah,
throwing your
they
partner
said
under the
something
bus. Yeah.
awkward. I'm gonna hang out with Steven because I'm doing that a lot too. You
Yeah.
try to put someone else at ease, but I think for a relationship, it's really important to stay together, to sort of like unionize and be like, we can put people at ease in a lot of different ways, but
Right.
it can't be at each other's expense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're totally right, Rebecca, though. There are so many shticks. There's the girl being like, ugh, I can't believe I have to have sex with this guy, and the like sexless
Yeah.
shtick,
Yeah.
which like
Right.
that is not the healthiest things to
Oh,
fall into
totally. It's
either.
another way of throwing your
Right.
partner under the bus, being like,
Yeah.
they're not good in bed and, you know?
Mhm.
Or like the competence thing that you always talk about, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we talk a lot about because we found ourselves falling into that.
Oh,
And
Yeah.
like, he's so incompetent.
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah,
do
yeah.
everything around here. Like,
Right,
you don't even
right.
know how to stack the dishes. And it's like, we were
Right.
17 when we met. Like, we know how to stack the dishes, but there's like a lot of shit we learned
Right.
around the
It's
same
also just, like,
time.
awkward, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
when you go out to dinner with these couples and, like, their shtick is so, like, antagonistic and, like,
Yeah.
against each other,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's like, "Okay, I laughed, like, the first time, but now I'm
Totally.
feeling a little weird
Yeah.
Yeah.
about this."
And I found myself doing that. I would sort of make a joke or two at Ben's expense, being like, I'm the one, keeping this afloat. And finally he sat me down or, whatever.
I
And
said, "You sit down in that chair that
you sit
in your trouble
down.
chair."
I put on my dunce cap and he was saying, he's like, I'm starting to feel incompetent.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
not just about how other people are seeing us, but I'm
Right.
starting to feel like I shouldn't be, I'm not able to do things because like
Mhm.
that is our dynamic.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
let's just sort of push a reset button and figure out how to, reset the dynamic to
Mhm.
like we're both figuring this out
And teach
together.
me how to use the dishwasher.
Mhm.
That's
And
what
he's
I
getting
say.
so good at
I'm
it.
getting
Yeah.
really close.
It's really funny. It's funny because like, our situation, so my husband is probably, if he wanted to be, if he put his mind to it, he
Yeah.
could be more domestic than me.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And he actually, this is so embarrassing. I can't believe I'm admitting this, but he taught me, I knew how to do it, but he taught me how to do laundry like properly.
Sure.
Mhm.
And now that I know and I do it, he's like, I never knew how to do it. What do you mean? Like, I never taught you. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's like it's become our shtick. And like it's funny and it's like
totally.
it's cute, but like obviously sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm running out. Like, can you switch like the washer to the dryer and
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, like I don't know how. And it is annoying because like he takes it too far, but
Yeah.
Yep.
We always say competence is a zero-sum game where, like, if you're in a relationship or a weekend get together with 6 friends, there's one person who knows how to, like, change the input on the TV
mhm.
and turn on the stove, and, like,
Yeah.
everyone else goes to 0.
Right,
It's this
exactly.
weird
So
phenomenon.
true.
There's only
Uh-huh.
one trusted person, and
Right.
that confidence allows them to do something
Right,
that no
right.
Yeah.
one else can do all of a sudden.
Totally,
Yep.
totally. But I have to ask you guys, because you work together, because
Yeah.
you've been together for so fucking long,
Yep.
how do you feel like how do you ever feel independent in your relationship? Like,
Mm.
what do you do to like maintain that independence? Does it have to be this like intentional, like conscious thing where you're like, I'm going on like a girls' weekend,
Mhm.
like I need to, like
Yeah.
I kind of need to get like away from you, or even just like I'm intentionally making, 3 plans
Yeah.
with this like every week with like guys and
Mhm.
friends and whatever.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I think you already hit the nail on the head. We have really good friends. And
Mhm.
I think one thing that was nice about deciding, even when we started dating really early on, that like that was not going to be the end of our social life was that we've really accumulated this wonderful group of people who we adore, many of whom are our mutual friends,
Mhm.
but a lot of whom are people who, they're really a part of my life and Ben adores them as well, or vice versa.
Mhm.
So I think that I think we spend more time with other people than the average couple does in the evenings, on weekends, because we're just so intentional about, we need to have other things to talk about, you
Yeah,
know?
we've always been really honest about, like, the assumption from the jump has been like we are best friends, sure, but like friends serve an entirely different
Oh,
purpose and like
yeah.
fill an
Mhm.
entirely different need. And when we graduated, it's so hard to be a post grad and like you lose your community, you move back home. It's not like we were able to, we weren't in consulting, we weren't able to afford living in the city right away. That wasn't really our beat. We weren't sure if we were going to be in LA or New York. And the first thing we said when we sat down with our agents, they're like, "All right, so this is it. Like, do you want to have a TV show? Do you want to be on late night?" We were like, "This is crazy. Like, do you have any friends that you could introduce us to?"
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and we always joke with them about like they had to build our social lives too and try to introduce us to young people in the industry because we didn't have friends in our careers, like a class of people that we were
Right.
starting with at a company. So we really don't take friends for granted.
Oh, yeah.
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 But you had friends from college that moved to the city?
Yeah, they sort of trickled in, though. I mean, we had a
Mhm.
few that moved right out of school, who had sort of scattered to different industries, but it was sort of being very intentional again about saying, who are my people here? Who am I going to see on a week to week basis? Who are the people I can complain to work about? Because my partner isn't really someone I should complain to work about, because that's
Right.
a great way of getting stuck in a super negative rut.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It became almost more essential to us because it's like we need to hear about other lives. We need to hear about other industries. We're writing and we're writers. And it's like, what are we going to write about if our lives are so similar?
And also, like, we just lose perspective easily. I
Hmm.
mean,
Right.
that's something we've learned over time. Like, if a pitch doesn't go exactly the way we want, and I walk out of it being like, well, that was a disaster. And then my partner right next to me is saying, yes, that was a disaster. And like, we can spend all night being like, the world has ended. Nothing good will ever happen again. And we're all done. And,
Right.
just like spending 1 minute with someone else who's like, my cat is sick is enough to be like, okay, right. And like,
Right,
I am
right,
not the
right.
center of my universe.
Uh-huh.
So.
Hmm.
I'm curious, like, especially Ben, from your
Yeah.
perspective, you guys, have friends who are getting into serious relationships,
Yeah.
like starting, maybe obviously didn't start as young as you, but like what are you seeing that are like the issues like from let's say guys that you're
Yeah.
friendly with, especially because I know that women listening like want to know and they also are thinking like are there good guys anymore at all?
Yeah. I mean, I'm noticing a little bit of a like self-defeating confidence problem at right around our age, 27. I think there are some amazing guys in my life that are on the market, but there's like a little bit of insecurity when they're looking around and seeing most of their friends are in relationships now, and they kind of get a little hard on themselves or they put a lot of pressure on themselves, on these first dates or second dates. And like it's a bit of a pity because I wish I could say to them, like, your value and your self-worth is like, if anything, only skyrocketing. Like there you have, infinite potential to meet your person right now. But I think that there's a little bit of a looking around and being like, is it me? And it's like, no, it's not you. It's just the timing's not right yet. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
That's
Mhm.
also how people end up getting weird on first dates. Like, the
Yeah.
higher the pressure
I
feels.
know, that's why I'm always like, give it at least 2, like,
Totally.
Mhm. Yeah.
everyone's weird on a first date.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much of like, hey, I would like to bring a plus one to this event because like I want to feel like I'm there with my guy friends who are in relationships. And it's like, oh, that's not the event to bring that person to. Like we want to, we love more than anything meeting someone that someone's dating. But it's like if I were writing your relationship, I don't know if that's the right move. So I think it's a lot of
Mhm.
panicking. And I think it'll go away. I think our older friends who are in their 30s and still single, like they find themselves again and they regain a sense of confidence that allows them to make less fewer
Chaotic
decisions,
decision.
yeah, chaotic decisions and decisions from a place of fear. But I think there's like a 27, 28 rut of guys just like being a little down on themselves.
Mm.
Interesting.
We need to
Mhm.
care for them.
Yeah,
These
for
sweet, sweet
real.
soft
They need
boys.
they need therapy.
Yeah.
How do you guys, like, find inspo when you're writing about dating
Oh
in,
my
like, your 20s? Because you didn't really do that.
It's all our friends. I
Yeah.
mean, it is really the question, and I think sometimes a little bit of a blind spot for us, but luckily we've had enough friends who have had enough questions and problems and complaints and funny stories that we've sort of saturated up that way.
Yeah, but we're really deliberate about it. I sat my guy friends down at dinner the other night, and I'm like, I'm gonna buy our next round, but the entire round has to be you guys telling me about your dating stories.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I only have Rebecca, and we have a few projects where we need to inject some sex and single life into it. And so focus groups, like we try to approach this very artsy, and nebulous career with the same kind of intentionality that we would have approached like grad school or these
Right, right, right.
careers that our parents thought that we were going to be
Still
doing,
deep down think we're going to pivot
still
into.
hope for. Um, and I think we saw that in each other early on. We're like, all right, we're both hardworking, and we're not gonna fuck around just because this industry could be fun. We're gonna suck
Make it
all the
not
fun out
fun.
of
Yeah.
it. I know, but we're gonna try to work our butts off and get data. Like you just try to ask your friends so you can collect the
Totally.
stories and the anecdotes.
And now
Mhm.
we're looping back around again, and everyone's like ethical non-monogamy. It's the
Oh my
place to be,
god.
apparently. So,
It's I did a whole episode on that with this guy who's great, Dan Savage,
mhm,
Mm.
and he, is involved in it.
mhm.
But I don't know if I'll ever, I don't know. I
we,
don't know.
we feel so we've never felt like older and
Right.
stuffier than us being
Lamer.
lamer and just
Yeah.
being like not for us. And
Right.
someone said to us the other day, oh,
Yeah.
vintage.
Well,
I
it's like how that new Mean Girls is coming out,
Mhm.
and like being popular is actually like not cool.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Yeah,
it's like it's a bad look to
Yep,
like, be like the cool girl in
totally.
school
totally.
now.
I know when they said it's not your mother's Mean Girls, I just
Yeah.
collapsed into a
That was
small fetal position.
I felt so attacked.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah. That one hit me like right in the ovaries somehow.
mhm, mhm. So tell me a little bit about Naked in the Rideshare.
Mm.
Like what can we expect?
Yeah, Naked in the Rideshare is our humor collection. It's short comedic stories, mostly fiction with a few nonfiction pieces in there. Um,
Is this a
and
book or
this
Yeah,
is a
it's a
book.
book.
okay.
We wrote a whole book,
Hmm.
which I still kind of can't believe. But yeah, I mean, Ben and I both really, our early humor education was largely comedic fiction. We love Simon Rich, we love Mindy Kaling,
David
Issa Rae,
Sedaris.
David Sedaris, exactly. And when we were on the Tonight Show, one thing that we sort of kept coming back to was, those pieces and really wanting to contribute a little bit in that field in our own small way.
You don't
Um,
see, oh, sorry, I was just
no,
going to say,
please.
you don't see a lot written about what it's like to be in your 20s right now by people who
Mhm.
are in their 20s. I think
Right.
you see a lot of shows on, networks that are like hashtag group chat, and it like lasts for
Mhm.
6 episodes, and you
Right,
are kind of,
right.
and we wanted to write something that was as outrageous and honest and messy as the stories that we hear about our friends all the time. But like these stories are weird and heightened and super raunchy. So like instead of a story about two female friends trying to make it in their careers. That's how we start off. And then one of them gets a call that the College of Cardinals got together and they elected her the next pope. And the other friend is like, I'm so happy for you. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh God, they
It
were on the same track and then one of them shot ahead, which we've
yeah.
all been
Right.
there. We've all experienced that.
It becomes the story about, when you feel like you're on the same page as your friends and all of a sudden one of them becomes more successful and feels more
Mm.
grown up and, navigating that jealousy. And
Right,
all of a
right.
sudden she's like flying to the Vatican and, applauding while her friend takes her papal rights and being like sitting next to her mom and being like, yeah, I'm still interning, but it's going really
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah.
So right, like using weird big swings to tell stories that feel like what it really feels like right now.
Yeah.
And really
Um,
generational, I hope.
yeah.
But right, to your point, Rebecca, one of the things that HarperCollins, our editor, pushed us to do was like tell us a little bit about yourselves. And our instinct was like, who cares about like our
Yeah, yeah.
but our sort of concession to them, our compromise was instead of telling a story about, dating or working with celebrities, for instance, we have a chapter that's the hypothetical contract that we wrote up in the event that after working with Ryan Reynolds, he asked us to have a threesome. So it's
Mm.
like the real
Mhm.
legality of getting into that and
Yeah.
what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do.
We have a yes disclosure policy. We got to
Yeah.
tell everyone
Yeah,
I
immediately.
you must
mean,
tell
of
Yeah.
everyone.
course. Like but that's actually a good question. I'm going to ask you some rapid fire. But if
Yeah.
Please.
you had the opportunity to have a threesome with like your celebrity of choice,
Mm.
but you had to sign an NDA. You can literally never tell anyone about
Wow.
this threesome for the rest of your life. Is it worth it to you?
What a good question. I mean, I think as long as we are allowed to
Yeah.
continuously talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
we spend enough time together that would be like 90% of our conversations. And
Right.
I think that would be really exciting for us.
Yeah, I would say yes.
Yeah,
Same
yeah.
reason.
I
Yeah,
agree.
grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it interesting.
Keep it interesting. All right, these are some rapid fires. You know the drill, just basically yes or no's. Is it weird that your fiance's mom still likes sorry, so
Mhm.
like Ben's ex's
Mhm.
pictures? Yes or no?
Yes.
Same if
Yeah.
reverse.
hmm
Even if it's just like one of those, moms who likes everything.
It's more important to me that Ben's mom likes me than that he likes me.
But she likes your stuff too.
Yeah, but I'm supposed to be the only woman in her life.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We're big in-law loyalty
Yeah,
fanatics.
yeah.
I agree. Do you like watching people make their beds?
Like as ASMR? Or...
Yeah, like in a YouTube.
Oh, I don't think I've ever stumbled upon that.
Okay.
Have
That's
you?
one of mine. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it too.
Especially when you make up. Just kidding. Those are the kind of jokes we don't make.
Those are the jokes we don't make.
Why? Because Rebecca
Just-
doesn't make the bed?
No, just gendered stuff.
Okay. Oh, okay. I see.
I don't.
I
make
see
the
where we
bed
went.
either. It somehow ends up being made by the end of the day.
By
Uh-huh.
me. By me.
Okay, so
But-
you've been on a few dates, or imagine, your friends have been on a few dates with someone. Huge lifestyle differences. The girl is much more bougie and traditional. The guy is more divey and off the beaten path. Can it work, or is it doomed?
Mm,
I think it could work.
me too.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think as long as she likes that about him and he likes that about her,
Mm-hmm.
I think that intersection it's very on brand right now. It's very trendy.
They'll both get into like art or something in between.
Do you think
Yeah.
it's better that way than the guy being bougie and the girl being off the beaten path?
Yeah, I don't trust a bougie guy.
Yeah.
Odds are I don't trust a bougie guy compared to a bougie girl. yeah.
Right. No, I agree.
agree.
Have you ever gone to the movies by yourself? Yes or no?
Yes.
Love it. Me too. It's my
Big
favorite thing. Would you freeze embryos? Okay, we
So
just
funny you
went
asked
there. We
that.
pivoted.
That is so funny.
With
you asked
a
that.
serious significant other, if you were sure they were the one, but you were not engaged or married.
That is so funny. You should ask that. I just went to a fertility doctor 2 weeks ago.
Really?
I think you are the second and third through 10,000th person who will now know that.
That's amazing.
But and they were asking about that. They were really pushing in the direction. This was right before we got engaged, and they were saying, "Well, that's the thing to do. You should freeze your embryos." And I suddenly got a little creeped out by it. I think
Yeah.
it's wonderful. It's amazing the tech is there, but I was like, I don't want like
yeah, you're 27.
5
you're
kids
good.
sitting in Midtown
Right,
somewhere.
right,
Whereas I was like, we should of course do that.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
Ben was
right,
all
right.
in.
Yeah.
I knew that we were going to get engaged in
He's
a
like,
week.
all I have to do is jerk off into a cup. Why would
Yeah.
you
I do that
that?
most days.
Yeah.
But I knew that we were going to get engaged in a week, and I couldn't give up the surprise. Rebecca was like, "We're not
Right.
even married yet."
Right,
I'm like,
right.
You don't even know
yeah.
what I have
If
planned.
only
What are
you
you
knew.
gonna do
If only you knew.
I'm still down to do it.
Yeah.
I was and I am.
All right, gotta revisit.
Yeah.
Does your significant other ever deny you cuddles?
Oh. Yeah, I would say like we try not to go to bed angry, but I think that we try not to, fight until 5 in the morning.
Mhm.
So I think we've had times where we reach a detente and we're like, I love you. It's going to be fine. We should both get some sleep,
Right.
but this is not going to be like a heavy spoon. But I guess
Mhm.
that wouldn't be one person really pursuing and the other
Mm-hmm.
shoving away.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, you've been seeing a guy, for a few months. Things are going really well, but you start to get irritable with them and you want your space after spending 2 days together.
Mm.
Red flag or normal? You've only been seeing each other for a few months.
Oh, interesting. I think the test is, can you sit in silence and get less annoyed at them again? Because I think there's such a thing as feeling overstimulated by someone.
right.
But if their physical presence is giving you the ick, then it's time to move on.
Good call.
I have that with friends a lot lately. Like
Mm.
weekends with friends, I'm like, oh God, I gotta get away from you. I think it's natural. I think it's normal. And then the
Mhm.
more time you spend, you sort of like increase the stamina that you can spend with a person. So I'd say
Yeah.
keep pursuing.
But we're big proponents of parallel play. We're like, we don't need to be talking all the time. I
Yeah,
can be
yeah, yeah.
scrolling, you
Love
can be
that.
scrolling. So
Love that and hate anyone who is against that in a relationship.
Yeah.
yeah.
That, like, oh my God, I dated someone who needed like the look me in the eyes every time we're together, like
Too much
longingly.
pressure.
Yeah.
What
It's never
what
happened.
void are you trying to fill?
Yeah.
Right.
A
Like,
year in, Ben finally admitted that his favorite website is one of those like WWE analysis pages, and he was like, I keep angling the computer away from you, and I need you to know."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And ever since then, I feel like we've learned how to enjoy our own space.
As you
Yeah.
should.
Mhm.
I love it. This was so much fun.
So
So much
much
fun.
fun.
Can
Yeah.
you guys leave me with a quote or piece of advice? Maybe it's something from the book. Maybe it's just something that
Mm.
you know, your grandma told you that
Oh.
you've kept in your existence.
Oof. I'll start and solve
Mhm.
for time. Um, Mine is our first chapter in the book, which is one of my favorites, is called "We'd Kill Each Other," and it's based on the idea that when we tell people that we work together, we always hear, "Oh, if my partner and I work together, we'd
Right.
kill each other." And the way we do it is this funny sort of heightened thing where it's imagining what would happen if we two out of shape comedians in good faith decided to try to kill each other, and it's all of the you know Pilates that I quit halfway through and trying to slam him across the table and, this and that. And what we end the chapter by saying is, all of this is obviously a joke, but the main reason it's a joke is because when you're in a serious relationship, there's so many versions of working together. And all of what you do on a day to day is these negotiations, sometimes big, sometimes small, learning how to fight well, learning how to make up and say, I don't care enough about this and I love you. So I think what I would say is that in, our 9 years together, what we've realized is it's all kind of the same. And
Mm-hmm.
some people work together and some people don't, but the ability to push through the world together, I think, is kind of consistent throughout.
Love that.
And I would say, as much as I don't want to portray our relationship as perfect, and I hope that we got to show the light and the shade in this conversation, I want to end on a little bit of a note of people that are a little bit unsure. Try to find your Rebecca.
Oh,
Try to keep pushing, and if you're Steven, find your Lindsay, and if you're me, find your Rebecca, because I think we're all kind of deserving of a very timeless classic love story, and I think there is someone out there for everyone that can achieve that kind of special relationship.
I
I
am so
agree.
making embryos with you.
Okay, that's a yes.
Thank you guys so much. Oh, where can everyone read your book?
Naked in the Rideshare is out on Amazon, HarperCollins, your favorite local bookstore for pre-order, and will be out on the 14th.
Awesome. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Lindsay.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
You guys were so